Ben.
Welcome to the Coast Fair and Farmers Market Committee. Roll here. Member Hall is not. Vice Chair Hancock is present. Councilmember Johnston is present. Councilmember Pulley is present. Councilmember Roberts is present. Councilmember Sledge is present. Councilmember Swope is absent. Councilmember Withers is, I think, in budget, I guess. Mm-hmm. And Councilmember Young, I think, is in budget as well. So that gives us, but that definitely gives us a quorum. All right, we have one bill on our agenda today for second reading. It is BL 2019-4 by Councilman Sledge. And it amends the Metro Code of Laws to prohibit aerial advertising. Can I have a motion to put it before us? Thank you. All right, Councilman Sledge.
Thanks. So this was before us a couple of years ago. This was specifically referring to banner advertisements trailing planes. And the reason that I'm bringing this is because we started seeing more of this occurring quite frankly, right before the pandemic. There was a lot of this occurring around the downtown core with events like CMA Fest, with other downtown festivals and events. And you might ask, well, what's the issue? Well, the issue was every weekend that one of these was occurring, these planes will be flying across the entire urban core. And when I say that, I mean all the way out to West End, south of downtown where I represent, and all around the area. And they fly pretty much every time there's something going on. That stopped with the pandemic. I had actually pulled this bill before that because there was a bill before Congress. There's actually a bipartisan bill carried by Senator Blackburn and Representative Cohen. It was called the Song Act because this was a particular concern, mainly drones, but air traffic overall with events, especially music events. That bill has gone nowhere in a couple of years. It's been read in a Senate committee, and that's it. So the reason I find this important is because as soon as things started opening back up downtown, we had about 4 straight weekends in March and April where there were planes going again, all from Friday to Sunday. They fly pretty low. I was up at Fort Negley one weekend this was occurring, and it was like, I mean, it felt like it was right there. They do produce, obviously, different kinds of pollution. I do want to note this is message neutral. It has nothing to do with what's on the banners. And the good thing about this is this has been held up by the U.S. Supreme Court. Honolulu brought an extremely similar case that this bill is written off of, that Ms. Zeitlin wrote, researched, that said that this is something that jurisdictions can legislate as long as it is message neutral, which is what this is. It does not include the Goodyear blimp. I got that question a lot. It is purely this form of advertising. And then when I've been asked about enforcement, I have spoken with MNAA and their legal, their attorneys. They have said, look, we don't see this happening at Tune. They would almost never see it at B&A, but at Tune, but that they felt comfortable. They're not opposing or supporting this legislation, I just want to be clear, but they felt comfortable that it was based on the Honolulu ruling, that it hews to that. They do believe that most of these planes are coming out of regional airports, like Smyrna and Lebanon were the 2 that they cited. Obviously, we can't enforce things that come out of Smyrna and Lebanon, but what this does give us the opportunity to do is if we put this in place, that we can have the communications with those airports to inform them of what our laws are. And if there's somebody who is a, sort of blatant offender, that we can have that conversation. And it's not meant to be punitive per se, but it is trying to get ahead of an issue that we've gotten a glimpse of when everything comes back next year, right? When CMA Fest comes back next year, I'm being selfish, when a new venue opens in the district I represent next year, knowing that this is going to be probably even more of an attractive place for this kind of activity. So.
Just a couple of quick questions. So they're otherwise not violating any FAA rules with the airspace near B&A. So does the FAA or B&A have a position on this legislation?
No. So when I talked with B&A, they are trying to make sure that and they specifically said they want to make sure they are in total compliance with FAA because they have to be. They felt comfortable they'd be in compliance with FAA based on the Supreme Court ruling, but they don't have a position on the bill itself. They did. I did offer if they wanted to offer an amendment for the bill. I'm not aware that they offered one.
Yeah, we didn't receive anything.
Okay, so they did review it. They didn't offer an amendment on it. I was open to an amendment if they felt one was necessary. And I want to make sure I've got everything straight on that. Yes. So that's the conversation we had.
That's it.
Anything else? Okay.
But,
Yes.
so what is the most offensive to you about these banners?
A lot of it's noise. They're pretty low flying, so you can hear them going around. They start pretty early because, like I said, I think the majority, if not all of them, are coming from out of county. So they'll make a couple of trips during the day, from my experience, where they'll come in, they'll do the circling. I don't know if it's fuel or whatever else. They'll leave, then they'll come back, and it's pretty much a 12-hour operation, sun up to sundown. So there's that piece. There is a visual pollution part of it, right? You're watching in your city advertising go around for 12 hours a day, 3 days a week. So that's part of it too. And I have a personal concern that, hey, we're sending planes up into the air. Every plane pollutes, right? Let's be clear, but they are just sort of going around using fuel out in the city for this sole purpose.
And so who will enforce this?
It's a great question. So M&AA would be able to enforce it on their two properties, right, B&A and Tune. Outside of that, it would be up to the regional airports to enforce that. So M&AA's attorney sent me a contact for basically the General Aviation Authority, which covers those regional airports. So my next step is, if we do pass this, is to go to them and say, hey, want to let you know about this. Make sure that you are aware of this, and if you have any sense of folks who are coming in from y'all's airports to Davidson County, if you'll please let us know. And from that step forward, my hope would be that we just have a conversation with whoever those operators would be to say, hey, actually, we have passed a law that says we don't do this in Davidson County.
So would you say that that Tune and B&A can enforce? Basically, you're saying that they will not permit something with an ad, aerial ad.
Would be aware that form of advertising is not allowed in Davidson County, and they would be able to say, hey, you can't leave Tune. It's probably not going to be B&A, but you can't leave Tune with that banner on there because.
So we would expect maybe that we would hope, we can't enforce, Lebanon and Smyrna, but we would hope that they were aware and would say, hey, to anybody taking off that you can't fly in Davidson County.
It would at least create the grounds to say,
Right.
hey, this is something we don't allow.
Right. I do know that Codes emailed the Codes leaders in Codes, or one of them emailed me and did say that they didn't have a problem with the bill, but that they thought it would be pretty difficult to enforce from their point of view. Councilmember Johnson.
Are we putting ourselves in like a First Amendment thing? Because it's like, who owns the air, right? Like in your yard, you can put a political sign that even some people would find offensive, but you have the right to do that because that's your yard. I just don't want to get into, I have the right to do whatever I want because I'm not violating any FAA, whatever, and you don't own the air, or what?
Right.
So, have we looked at that at all?
That gets into the Supreme Court ruling,
Yeah.
I think.
So I do want to clarify, it's not a Supreme Court ruling, it's a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling.
yeah.
So it's not gone to the Supreme Court to be heard. So it was challenged two separate times on two separate grounds. The first was a First Amendment case, and it was found to not violate the First Amendment. The second was FAA regulations to see if it could be enforced in conjunction or if FAA regulations preempted the ordinance, and it was found that the FAA regulations did not preempt the local ordinance.
Would it be easier, well, I don't know if it's easier or not, but to just limit the hours? Because I get it, if it's, 7 a.m. on a Saturday, like, that's super annoying. Would you be open to that? To just allowing people to, because I'm sure there's a revenue source for that, and there's a whatever, but could we do that, although enforcing that too would be probably an issue?
I think that's the exact conversation I've had with myself, and I think Councilmember Poley brought this up the last time we were in committee on this too. I think an hours thing would be pretty hard to do too. And I would prefer, honestly, that if we have the ability to control at least from what's coming from our airport, so we say, hey, this is a thing that we're not putting the onus on the airport to figure out the times and everything else, that it's just a real black and white issue, so that when we know, hey, the real issue is probably outside the county lines, we need to be having that conversation, that it creates the space to have that conversation.
And I'm wondering if, like, instead of saying absolutely not and putting those regional airports in a position of like, so sorry, you can't take off from our airport because we're trying to whatever, instead of, it would maybe easier for them to say, hey, we just can't let you take off until 10 a.m. or whatever the hours would be, that it would be more enforceable, just because it takes them out of the you can't do this at all, thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get the issue. It's just trying to, where's that sweet spot of where it's not invasive, but you're also not just completely redlining it out.
And to me, part of that comes from not just the hours, but the number. And I guess, the FAA has some authority to limit the number of aircraft in the air and kind of knows flight plans and stuff. But that's kind of my concern about like just limiting it to certain hours, is that I'd rather limit, like if we're going to have some limitations and some allowances, like limit the number that can be up, but that seems pretty different from, that could, I think, cause some content issues if we, if some went up and some didn't, there could be arguments that, hey, it was based on our message, even if that wasn't true. Councilmember Hancock. Yes.
Thank you. So I'm really excited about the elimination of excess emissions, and that would just essentially be idling in the sky. And we all know that I don't like idling. But one thing that I would like to talk about is you mentioned how the Goodyear blimp wouldn't be listed in this. So for the purpose of this, it's a sign or advertising device, like a poster, a banner, writing, painting, lights. So does that mean they can't paint the plane with the advertisement and then fly the plane over without a banner behind it? And
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
and so, like, would a Delta plane essentially be violating that if they were that sort of thing?
No, the short answer to that is no. The amendments that we put on a couple of years ago say exempt all that. So no, Southwest having the tail of its plane say Southwest is fine.
But what about a small local plane that painted their plane to say, let's go to XYZ Tavern in Madison, Tennessee?
If they painted, I think they're still allowed, under this. I want to make sure.
So the language was changed from like a identifying mark on the exterior to affixed to, which I think was intended to mean, it's attached to the plane.
Yeah. So yes, they probably could do that. I guess what I would get into is that's probably, I don't view these banners as particularly effective to begin with, to be honest, but that's neither here nor there. I think the painting on the plane then becomes even 1 degree less effective, if that makes sense, because
Small.
Right. I think it would be even harder to see.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Any other cities that have done this successfully?
Yeah, so
Contiguous counties that are allowing it?
Yeah, here, no. This is a fairly new sort of thought. Like I said, Honolulu is the main case that I used. There was another one that I think
There
was...
is, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I probably have it back in my research.
Yeah. So it was
At least one other place, I think. Say.
What was the impetus for Honolulu to do it?
Honolulu, from what I recall, was visual pollution.
Okay, there's this aesthetics.
Yeah.
Not.
Right.
San Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize. This may have been something that was mentioned before I got in here from budget. But, I mean, at first thought of all this, I think of as a kid going to Daytona every year, and you always had the planes flying with the banners advertising, water ski or whatever you could do. And so I guess I'm curious, what's the exact problem that we're trying to fix? And I apologize if this was brought up already. And so I'm happy to.
Yeah, no problem. So recap, it was before, so in 2019, when I introduced the bill, we had a couple
long
of
ago,
ones.
it seems like.
That were going over the downtown core a lot, anytime there was an outdoor event, essentially. And what they were doing, where they were making huge loops all the way through the urban core, so they're going as far as West End, south of downtown, district I represent, basically all the neighborhoods of the downtown core were getting low-flying plane traffic 3 days, Friday to Sunday, 3 days a week. That stopped with the pandemic, but now that things have started up, we have one that went about 4 weekends in a row. I get what you're saying on you would go to an event. The concern I have is now we have venues, we've got Lower Broad, we've got the amphitheater, we've got the fairgrounds, right? And if we're not sort of getting ahead of what we already know could potentially occur, then we've got multiple. I think we're unique in this, and that we're a city where we're going to have multiple venues going multiple weekends at the same time, and we become a magnet for that, right? And then what occurs in the district I'm representing is, again, low-flying plane traffic, 3 days a week, 12 hours a day. That's causing an issue. It's a quality of life issue.
What is the issue? I don't have low-flying planes at my house, so I'm not familiar with this. I'm not trying to be smart, but what is the harm?
Yeah. So 3 things. So noise pollution. They do emit a sound. The visual pollution of what they're dragging, because this only goes for banner advertising, and then the actual pollution, right? The air pollution that they're putting over. They're not transporting anybody. They're just advertising, right? So
I didn't realize noise was one. Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty.
Is it?
They're surprisingly. You get a low hum throughout your day and your evening.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, my only experience had been like at the beach as a kid.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the noise, and there's other stuff going on. Okay.
Yeah, I was up at the one I experienced most recently was Fort Negley, and it was both loud and pretty. You're up on a hill, right? But you're pretty close. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to dig and see if I can. You'll have to send me some times that are popular, because I'd love to listen to it, because I'm sensitive to the how that's it's a real touristy kind of thing to do, and we have positioned ourselves, for better or for worse, as a tourist destination. And I can see how, like, during a soccer game, if there's someone's advertising something, flying over with a banner, or during like CMA Fest, I can see the value in it, but and this might be outside of the scope of what we can do. Can we limit the airspace, or where? Like, we could say, well, in downtown, where there's already a bunch of additional noise going on, can we say in that, and Councilman O'Connell, who represents downtown, might want to hurt me for saying this, but that's downtown. If residents there are accustomed to noise because they're in the downtown core, could we say, well, you can do it in the downtown area, but maybe not out in Wedgwood, Houston, near their fairgrounds, because that is more residential. Don't be in East Nashville. Do we have that authority to give a specific place or zone?
I would turn to legal.
And I guess that once again goes to enforcement.
I think that I'd need to research that and get back to it. Yeah, I think that enforcement is probably going to be the most difficult part of that, even if that's something that Metro could do.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were talking about how MNAA, in my conversations with them, they think that most of this is coming from regional airports like Smyrna and Lebanon, right? So what I would like to be able to do, they've given me the contact for the general aviation folks, is if we were to pass this, I can then go to them and say, hey, information-wise, we have this, you see folks who are going here and they're intending to go in, and it'll be easier for them to say, I'm not asking for the force, but
Yeah.
to say, hey, Davidson County doesn't allow this, other than saying, hey, you can fly in Davidson County, but technically when you get into the 440 loop, you're not able to do it. So I acknowledge the enforcement issues no matter what, but what I am trying to say is we've got a window right now to be able to at least do the information for it.
Sure.
To inform and try to get at least the folks who say, I don't want to take the risk or run afoul of anything, and maybe sort of.
Can I make an exception? Councilman Rowley wants to ask someone in the area.
I'm sorry, I did not catch that.
So this
Won't need
does,
that exception.
this does not relate to drones, so if he wanted to have a drone pulling a banner, I don't know if he might be able to do that.
Well, you know, it's kind of died down since COVID. We've had an increase. I know in my area, we've had and I can see on Nextdoor, nearby neighborhoods have had an increase. I see military, like there are more military missions, and Life Flight has been flying a lot more. I know I see in your district, I see folks, a lot of the military.
Problem
Yeah.
primarily.
And I don't know what y'all have experienced. The other thing I've experienced is a lot more of, because we funded the Metro helicopters, I've seen a lot more Metro police helicopters in the area too. I don't know if that's related to other things too.
Have folks complain about the Life Flight helicopters, and I'm like, you
Oh,
know,
that's
you know, it's Life Flight, so I don't want to pick that fight, but I think I think your point that, you know, this is not really that necessary, and it's an important, you know, airspace, and there is some different kinds of pollution going on with it. I'm supportive. Any other questions or comments? Are we ready to vote? All right. Can I just do it? Do I need to do a roll call? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right. I know at some point in the next, like, 2 months, I believe, that Director Womack, as part of the outreach for the Speedway proposal and the many aspects of public outreach that they're doing, that she has proposed at some point a joint meeting of this committee and the Fair Board. I don't remember if that's specifically part of the second public hearing. I know that the Fair Board's going to have another public hearing at some point. I don't know if it's been scheduled yet. I know they're going through the smaller groups right now.
From the last public hearing that occurred, I think it's the 8th, I could be wrong, that they have their next meeting. My understanding
right.
from listening to the meeting after the public hearing was that they expect to have some sort of like draft proposal to consider at the Fair Board.
On the 8th?
On the 8th, I'll confirm that, but Councilmember, you hearing something different?
What I was told today is that the actual plan to be presented would not be at the next Fair Board meeting. Some different options and changes were kind of being hashed out. And so my understanding is that it would be the next one, whenever that would be, and I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Anyway, I do know that Director Womack has proposed, and I thought it was a pretty good idea, a joint meeting of the Fair Board and this committee to learn more about it and have a chance to talk about it in a, you know, publicly noticed forum. And I think the flea market is back. I don't have dates on it, but I think they're back up and running. And I know I'm going to head over and see, because I think they didn't get to use their new space very much before COVID hit. And they very graciously and willingly used it for, you know, the homeless shelter overflow. But I think they're excited about having that space now to use again for the vendors of the flea market. So that's, and I've seen social media that's moving forward as well. But that's all I have. Anybody else have anything they want to share for the good of the group? All right, thank you. We're adjourned. I forgot to give these out to others.